Hello, my name is Grant Imahara, and it is 11:03 on Thursday, April 1st.
He was one of only 3 people in America allowed to touch the real R2-D2. Studios trusted him with million-dollar secrets. On Mythbusters, he built the impossible. Behind the scenes, though, something deadly was growing inside his head. During dinner with his fiancée in July 2020, he suddenly felt dizzy. Within hours, doctors were fighting to save him. 3 surgeries later, his family faced an unthinkable choice. Here's what actually happened. Grant Imahara was born on October 23, 1970 in Los Angeles. His mother Carolyn raised him alone during tough times. She worked 12 hours a day at an accounting firm and studied business at night. Even when she was offered a better job in San Francisco, she turned it down. She believed Los Angeles had better schools for Grant. They lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment. Carolyn turned the dining room into a study area and spent 3 hours each night helping him learn. Instead of toys, she bought him science kits. One of those kits from Radio Shack sparked everything. At just 5 years old, Grant started taking things apart. In 1 year alone, he disassembled 38 appliances. He didn't write anything down. He remembered every screw and wire in his head. He once took apart the family's new microwave and found a defect. His mother reported it. The company recalled 1,200 units. That's how sharp he was, even in kindergarten. But there were risks. At 6, he shocked himself badly while playing with a radio. His heart stopped. He never told his mother. He didn't want her to take away his tools. Everything changed on May 28, 1977. Grant saw Star Wars in the theater. He was 7. For 2 hours he sat completely still. Afterward, he only spoke in robot beeps. He didn't talk in English for weeks. He skipped 17 days of school that summer building an R2-D2 from scrap parts he found in dumpsters. By August, he had more than 600 parts and pages of drawings. He barely slept, using a flashlight under his blanket to read college-level manuals. He even rewired his school's PA system to play the Star Wars theme. It worked better than before. He was suspended anyway. When Grant entered Crestview Prep in 1984, things didn't slow down. He got a full scholarship. At 14, he corrected a physics teacher during class. By his second year, he was banned from school science fairs. Judges thought his projects were fake. In 1986, he built a robot named Murphy. It used parts from game consoles and an old Commodore 64. It could move around the school by itself. This was long before robots like that were common. But there was a cost. He burned his hands soldering. By 16, he had early carpal tunnel. He spent almost 90 minutes a day hiding in a science closet, building robots instead of going to pee. One teacher knew and quietly allowed it. By the time he graduated, he had built 13 robots. Most of his classmates hadn't even passed geometry. When he joined USC in the late 80s, he planned to become an engineer. But by 1992, he hit a wall. He took too many classes. He got burned out. He even thought about switching to screenwriting. He loved movies and storytelling. He seriously considered leaving engineering. He went to the film school and asked about changing majors. They told him it wouldn't be easy. Then he met Tomlinson Holman, the man who created the famous THX sound system. Grant was in awe. Right there, he made a bold move. He offered to be Holman's unpaid assistant. That meant cleaning a messy office filled with stacks of papers from professional groups like SMPTE and EIA. It wasn't glamorous, but it reignited something inside him. He saw how engineering could be used creatively. That 1 year of volunteering changed everything. Holman became a mentor. Through him, Grant got an internship at THX in 1993, right after graduation. That internship turned into a full-time job. Grant joined THX as a licensing engineer. He tested loudspeakers and audio equipment, making sure they met the exact standards required for THX certification. He paid attention to every detail: how a speaker handled stress, how it performed at different frequencies, how consistent the sound was. That became his world. But it wasn't just lab work. Occasionally, he'd put on a C-3PO's suit for promotional events. Lucasfilm needed someone to help with Star Wars branding, and Grant said yes. It was a small thing at the time, but it hinted at where he was headed, into entertainment and beyond. From 1993 to 1996, Grant helped standardize T-Chek's sound across theaters. He built testing systems for speaker arrays and figured out how to keep the T-Chek's audio experience consistent in every cinema. He verified audio gear from manufacturers and worked with vendors to meet strict technical guidelines. Hundreds of theaters and dozens of consumer products carried the T-Chek stamp thanks to his quality control. Grant Imahara's path to industrial light and magic wasn't simple, and it wasn't typical. He started at Lucasfilm's T-Chek's division after earning his electrical engineering degree from USC in 1993. At T-Chek's, he worked on stress testing audio gear to meet T-Chek's specs. But that wasn't his final destination. In 1996, he made a bold move, switching to ILM's model shop. That step changed everything. He wasn't hired just to tinker with models. Grant came in with a brain built for circuits and systems, and ILM saw something special. Even though most model makers came from artistic or mechanical backgrounds, Grant's edge was engineering. Over 9 years, he worked on films like Star Wars Episodes 1, 2, and 3, the Matrix sequels, and The Lost World, Jurassic Park. His job: design the guts of the props, circuits, lights, motors, anything that made them move or glow. Grant Imahara's journey with R2-D2 didn't start with Hollywood lights or a big break. It began in the quiet, tech-filled halls of Skywalker Ranch in the mid-1990s. At the time, Grant was just a skilled engineer working behind the scenes with Lucasfilm's archive team, but his work stood out. His deep knowledge of electronics caught their attention. Soon, he was invited to upgrade the aging R2-D2 units stored in the Lucasfilm archives. That small task turned into a life-changing moment. Not long after, Grant joined a very exclusive club. He became one of only 3 people in the entire United States officially authorized to operate R2-D2 at live events and commercials. The others were Don Bees and Nelson Hall. The 3 of them would become the go-to team whenever the droid failed to perform, even during big projects like Star Wars Episode 1. When problems popped up on set in London, Lucasfilm producer Rick McCallum reached out directly to them. He wanted ILM, not just any technicians, to build a new R2-D2 from scratch, and Grant was right in the middle of it. By 1999, the Phantom Menace was in full production, and Grant was leading a full rebuild of the droid. The older R2-D2s had constant issues. They stalled on tracks, overheated, and broke down in the middle of takes. Grant's solutions were smart and simple. He replaced the tiny wheels with bigger ones that rolled better on set floors. Then he added a motor from an electric wheelchair to boost mobility. He also rewired the entire power system and radio controls himself. It worked. R2 was now more reliable and easier to control. Grant's biggest upgrade came in Attack of the Clones. He was in charge of upgrading all 12 R2-D2 units. One key improvement was the dome lights, the flashing logic displays. He tossed out the old, clunky halogen system and replaced it with custom-built LED lights. These lights were tiny, precise, and powered by a special microcontroller he had designed earlier for another film, Galaxy Quest. Grant knew how to reuse his work to create new magic. Working on set wasn't easy. The Naboo scenes in The Phantom Menace were especially tough. The floors were uneven, the decor was fancy, and the R2s weren't built to handle that. The droids had always struggled with rough surfaces dating back to the original trilogy. Sometimes salt used to simulate snow would jam the drive belts. That history made Grant's job more important than ever. For Episode 2, McCallum declared that all the R2 units needed a full overhaul. Grant took the lead on electronics. Nelson Hall took care of the paint and physical look, including restoring R2's signature blue color. Grant wasn't just a background guy. When Attack of the Clones started filming in Sydney, McCallum gave Grant even more responsibility. He operated R2 on set and also supervised the actor in the C-3PO's suit, Anthony Daniels. It showed how much trust the team had in his skill. Outside of work, Grant kept building. In 2000, he joined a group of ILM friends like Adam Savage and Fawn Davis and decided to build personal R2-D2 replicas. Even though they worked with the real thing, they never copied any official parts. They handcrafted every piece from scratch, out of pure respect for the franchise. Grant's dedication to doing things the right way set him apart. It wasn't just about fandom, it was about integrity. His technical legacy only grew from there. For Episode 2, he helped create quick-change battery packs for R2. These new packs fixed a big problem. The old batteries were heavy, slow to charge, and unreliable. The quick-swap packs meant R2 could stay on set longer with less downtime. It was a huge win. Even after Star Wars, Grant stayed close to R2. He built his own perfect replica, even replicating a strange design detail inside the dome, bubbly epoxy that looked messy but accurate. He paid attention to things others wouldn't even notice. Grant wasn't just a behind-the-scenes engineer. He was one of only 3 people ever officially called an R2 technician by Lucasfilm. When something went wrong, producers called him by name. During Episode 2, he ran the entire electronics upgrade while his teammate worked on R2's cosmetic repairs. That included restoring the proper shade of blue after someone messed it up in Episode 1. Every detail mattered. By 1999, Grant's reputation had grown fast. He was promoted to chief model maker for Galaxy Quest just 3 years after joining ILM. He was now leading one of its most high-profile model-making efforts. He built light systems for the NCA Protector spaceship using circuit boards that gave it realistic shimmering effects. His engineering knowledge was finally meeting movie magic, and he was one of the only people who could blend both. He wasn't done proving himself. On the side, he designed a robot named Dead Blow and competed in BattleBots on Comedy Central. The robot fought in 17 matches and won 10 of them. That little machine helped turn his work into toys, a fan base, and even a book, Kickin' Bot, published in 2003. He knew how to take his ideas beyond the studio. But Grant also made his mark outside of movies and robots. In 2008, he helped breathe new life into one of the most famous mascots ever, the Energizer Bunny. The company needed better animatronics, so Grant built them from scratch. He designed circuit boards with 8-bit chips and radio controls. The bunnies could start and stop their drums, wave their arms, and twirl drumsticks on command. Each one had 44 AA batteries inside, just to prove that Energizer really meant it when they said, "Keeps going and going." Grant didn't just design the systems, he operated the bunnies himself during video shoots. This wasn't just a clever tech trick. It showed how Grant could apply his skills to any part of the entertainment world. From blockbuster films to televised robot battles and even battery commercials, he brought precision, creativity, and consistency. He wasn't just building models, he was solving problems. He was making things better. In 2005, something changed on Mythbusters. The build team lost Scotty Chapman. But they gained something even bigger, Grant Imahara. He wasn't just a replacement, he was a game changer. Grant came in with a sharp brain, a degree in electrical engineering from USC, and years of experience working at Lucasfilm's Industrial Light and Magic. He wasn't new to the team either. He had already worked with Adam Savage and Tori Belisai before, and he'd crossed paths with Jamie Heineman in the BattleBots scene. Adam once said, "Grant was the only one of us who actually had a degree in what we were doing, and it showed." His arrival instantly raised the bar. Over 9 years and more than 200 episodes, Grant became known as the geek of the build team, not as an insult, but as a badge of honor. His technical skills filled a gap between Carrie's art and Tori's builds. Together, they became a perfect trio. But Grant wasn't just brains and numbers, he got his hands dirty too, sometimes literally. In one 2009 episode, the team decided to test if earwax could work as candle wax, inspired by Shrek. It seemed funny at first, then the horror began. A doctor handed them a jar of earwax collected from hundreds of patients. Grant's job heated up. But as soon as it melted, a revolting stench filled the air. The wax was infected. The smell hit like a punch. Grant couldn't stop gagging. The reaction was caught on camera, and he had to walk off the set. Years later, he still called it the grossest thing I've ever done in my life. Despite the messes and close calls, Grant always returned to what he loved most: robots. Before Mythbusters, he competed on BattleBots with a robot called Dead Blow, a fast-striking, hammer-wielding machine. He didn't build Blendo. That was Jamie and Adam's creation, a terrifying spinning robot so dangerous it got banned after just 2 matches. But Grant made his mark in his own way. In 2010, while still working on the show, he built an animatronic skeleton sidekick for The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. It became a fan favorite. After leaving Mythbusters in 2014, Grant didn't slow down. He teamed up with Disney to help design a cutting-edge robot project called Stickman. This became the basis for the Stuntronics robots now flipping through the air at Disney theme parks. But Grant's proudest project wasn't for TV or theme parks. Just before his death in 2020, he spent months building a lifelike Baby Yoda robot, not for profit, not for show, but to visit children's hospitals and bring smiles to kids who needed them most. Grant also had close calls on set, some far more dangerous than earwax. In a 2011 episode, the team built a replica of the flying guillotine, a weapon from old Chinese legends. Grant was in charge. While loading the device, it suddenly triggered, 3/4 ready, blades armed, and Grant right in the danger zone. The blade sliced through his shirt, barely missing his stomach. After that, he never touched it again without a thick leather apron. It was a reminder of how real the risks were on a show that tested myths but often walked a thin line between curiosity and danger. While his career was in the spotlight, his personal life stayed mostly private. He was in a long-term relationship with costume designer Jennifer Newman. On December 7, 2016, at a surprise birthday party that turned into something more, Grant dropped to one knee and proposed. The ring was vintage, 1.56 carats, and cost him about $20,000. Jennifer's answer: "Fuck yeah." That was them, raw, real, and deeply in love. Tragically, Jennifer was by his side during his final moments. It was July 11, 2020. They were eating dinner when Grant suddenly felt dizzy, weak, and in pain. Around 9 p.m., he became unresponsive. Jennifer called for help, and paramedics rushed him to the hospital. At first, doctors thought they could save him. He had a brain aneurysm. The first surgery went well, but he stayed unconscious. A second procedure followed, but things got worse. By the time doctors prepared for a third operation, they found the damage was too severe. Grant was only 49 when life support was removed on July 13, 2020. His death shook the science and entertainment world. Even in his final year, Grant wasn't just building machines, he was spreading happiness. He spent 3 months creating a fully functional animatronic Baby Yoda. He designed, programmed, and even 3D printed the parts himself. But this wasn't for TV or money. He wanted to take it to children's hospitals to bring joy. "He's a happiness maker," Grant said. That's how he saw his work, tools to make others feel better. He also mentored high school students in robotics. Years later, those same kids became mentors too. His impact is still growing. Grant's Japanese-American roots were a big part of who he was. Born in Los Angeles on October 23, 1970, he was raised by his mother, Carolyn. His middle name, Masaru, means victory in Japanese. It fit him perfectly. His cultural values, precision, care, and quiet strength, showed up in every project. When he appeared on Mythbusters from 2005 to 2014, he wasn't just busting myths, he was showing Asian Americans that they could be engineers, creators, and stars on screen. He updated electronics on R2-D2, redesigned the Energizer Bunny, and broke barriers every step of the way. Grant Imahara's time on Mythbusters ended in 2014, and fans were shocked. For 9 years, he had been a key part of the build team with Carrie Byron and Tori Belisai. But things changed behind the scenes. Discovery Channel was cutting budgets. Executives wanted to reduce the build team's screen time and slash their pay. The trio stood their ground, they didn't accept the deal. After the 2014 season, they were out. Adam Savage later said he and Jamie Hyneman didn't agree with the decision. He called it the wrong one. Many fans did too. Without the build team, the show felt empty. Ratings fell. And 2 seasons later, it ended. That mistake cost the show everything. But Grant didn't stop there. In 2016, he reunited with Carrie and Tori for a new show on Netflix. It was called White Rabbit Project and premiered on December 9th. They explored crazy topics: jailbreaks, superpowers, heists, even weird wubby hoop weapons. Each episode had 6 items to test. They built things, did experiments, and ranked their findings. Viewers loved the energy. The chemistry was still there. But after just 1 season, Netflix canceled it. Insiders said the builds went way over budget. Others thought the show's format, covering too many things at once, felt rushed. Grant was disappointed. He saw it as more than a show. It was a way to keep teaching science in a fun way. Then came something truly magical. In March 2020, Grant showed the world his Baby Yoda. But this wasn't a toy, it was a full animatronic figure, lifelike, moving, blinking, tilting. He built it in just 3 months after watching a few episodes of The Mandalorian. Every part was designed, printed, and programmed by him. The head had tiny motors that made the eyes move and blink. The neck could tilt and turn. The ears were a nightmare, heavy, flexible, and stubborn. He had to upgrade the motors several times to get it right. For the skin, he teamed up with a prop maker named Lauren Markland. She painted the silicone and added every single hair one at a time using a needle. It took days. But Grant had a purpose: he made it for children's hospitals. He wanted to bring joy to sick kids. That was the kind of person he was. But there was still one more big thing. Back in 2017, Grant posted a tweet. He said he was working with Disney on a secret project. Fans were curious. In 2018, the secret came out. He was behind a wild new Disney invention called Stickman. It was a robot that could flip through the air like a human stuntman. Just a simple stick figure on the outside, but brilliant inside. A few months later, Disney revealed the next version, Stuntronics. These were advanced robots that could launch into the air, adjust in mid-flight, and land safely. Grant had helped crack the code for how they stabilized. His knowledge of robotics made it happen. And this wasn't just a one-off. Disney planned to use these robots in shows and rides across all their theme parks. The evening of July 13, 2020, started out like any other for Grant Imahara. He was having dinner at home in Los Angeles with his girlfriend. But that quiet night took a terrifying turn. Grant, just 49 years old, had been dealing with bad headaches for several days. That night, around 9 p.m., everything got worse, fast. He suddenly felt dizzy. His neck and back hurt badly. Then his legs went numb. Within minutes, he was unresponsive. His girlfriend called 911. Paramedics arrived quickly. Oddly, his vital signs looked okay, but something was clearly wrong. He was in pain and fading fast. They rushed him to the hospital. Doctors found the cause right away: a brain aneurysm. It had likely been growing silently for a long time, and now it was bursting into a crisis. Doctors acted fast. They took him into emergency surgery. He survived the first operation, but he didn't wake up. On Sunday, they tried again, another surgery, another long shot, but again, no change. Still unconscious. On Monday, doctors ran an MRI. It showed something no one wanted to see. The brain damage was too severe. There was no hope left. After speaking with his family, they made the painful choice to remove life support. Just like that, the world lost a bright, brilliant mind. The news spread fast and hit hard. Fans, scientists, engineers, and actors across the globe mourned. Adam Savage, his friend and Mythbusters co-star, said he was at a loss for words. He called Grant brilliant, generous, and gentle. Discovery Channel honored him with a 2-day marathon of his best shows: Mythbusters, Killer Robots, and White Rabbit Project. In the gaming world, even Dungeons and Dragons paid tribute. Matthew Mercer named a character after him, Imahara Joe, a genius tinkerer in a fantasy world. It was a beautiful way to keep his spirit alive. Grant's former fiancée, Jennifer Newman, shared her grief publicly. She said she had lost a part of her heart and soul. But even in death, Grant's story didn't end. On what would have been his 50th birthday, October 23, 2020, his mother, friends, and former co-hosts launched something powerful: the Grant Imahara STEAM Foundation. It was built to continue his mission of mentoring young minds. The foundation focuses on helping students from all backgrounds explore science, tech, engineering, art, and math. Grant had once mentored a high school robotics team, Team Number 841 at Richmond High. That team still exists today, led by someone Grant once mentored. In August 2021, over 80 props from Grant's time on Mythbusters were auctioned off to fund the foundation. Some of them were even built by him. The foundation now gives scholarships, pays for unpaid internships, and makes sure talented students can chase their dreams, no matter their situation.